So welcome back for this afternoon's session. Once again, welcome to Fourspace, online or in person. I won't go into my full intro. I'll just re-invite you to make yourselves comfortable for this session. From what I understand, we do have a bit of a presentation, but really it's an informal Romani interpreting practice session, which I assume means engagement and involvement. So feel free to take those two handheld mics that we have and pass them around as you speak so that we capture what everyone is saying here on the live stream and for the folks joining us via Zoom. So once again, I will just remind you that we are live streaming this event from Fourspace onto YouTube here today so that we can refer to it later and you can have access to it after the fact. And I do believe, I'm just looking at our special guests here. Yes, it looks like everybody's ready to go. So that's it for me, and off we go. I'll pass the mics and the floor to our guests now.
Boot Bach. 1, 2, 3.
Boot Bach.
Thank you very much. Boot Bach. You remember that from Sunday, right? That's the greeting that should get you across most of the dialects, right? So today the task is to look at some translation and interpretation assignments and practice a little bit. Romani-Translation and interpretation, and also understand what the challenges are and the beauties of this profession, right? As I told you guys on Sunday at the workshop, or was it Saturday? I can't remember. It's Saturday, actually. It was Saturday. I first understood. Well, actually, let me rewind. I spoke only Romani language up to the age of 6, right? And I thought that is Romani language, as I learned it from my parents and within my own community. And then I realized when we were asylum seekers in Germany, and I was the only member of the entire Romani-speaking community who spoke English and German at the age of 10, back then in 1989, after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And there was an influx of East European families into Germany. And that's when I realized that there are other variants of Romani language as well. Some people call it dialects, right? Which I'm not too happy with. But let's just call it dialects for the sake of simplicity. So I realized that there are different dialects, not just mine. And I realized that my dialect, other people call it either Kelderás or Lovári, right? And then I also realized that there are words we don't have in Kelderás, and there are words that exist, for example, in the Balkans, right? And I heard Serbian Romani speakers use a word we wouldn't use, right? So then I learned that I could actually, if by learning other dialects, I will have more Romani words, right? So I understood that at the age of 10, right? Now that is a journey that I had there, which my parents, for example, don't get to date, right? For them, Romani language is their dialect only, full stop, right? No discussion, no further discussion, right? That other thing is just that other language variant of Romani is fake, or they don't know it properly, right? That will be the perception. Now let's just look at the diversity, right, in our language, and one of our favorite dishes, and I'm not too sure if this is being projected now. My presentation can be put. The image on the main screen, please. I would appreciate that if that is a possibility, or is there anything I'm going to have to do? I'll have to share my screen. Thank you very much. So, share screen. I apologize. So here we go. Now you can see it, right? Oh, I went forward a bit, right? So, gypsy stew. I'm wondering if the Romani speakers in the room can tell us how they say gypsy stew in their own dialect, right? Nishko? Can you speak up, please? Or actually, is there a mic that we could give to Nishko? And the mic would have to go around the room so everybody is audible for the online viewers as well. Yeah, there is Nishko there. Please put your hand up so everybody knows who you are.
So we have two words, but one we call it patatengi, and the other one we say lolomas.
Oh, beautiful words, actually. I've not heard the first one you said. Is there any other variant that Romani speakers in the room are familiar with?
paprikash, Kairalium boot, and des paris, les paprikash. Alors il y a, there is pepper, tomato. I ate with
that is actually sorry?
Corompiria, and stew like that, beef stew. You know?
So I actually chose this as well because on Thursday, Maria will prepare a gypsy stew for us, right? So it's good to understand what it is called, yeah, by the time we are going to have the opportunity to taste it and consume it together. So this, for example, anybody familiar with this dialect on the screen? Which dialect this one could be? Romani, Piri?
Kuldarashitska. It is a
But for goulash, it's more specifically for a stew, right? This is not
just a pot.
yes, this is not the pot. Here, this means goulash.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, right? So this is from the Finnish Kale dialect, right? That's how they say that in Finland. For the pot. But we're not talking about the pot. We're talking about stew. Yeah, stew. And stew in Finland, among the Kale speakers, is piri. Or Romano gulashi is really widespread, right? It comes from the Hungarian word gulash, guyash. But this is another one, Romano per kilto, right? Which the Lovare and the Keldarás use very often. And this is a Hungarian loanword or adopted lexicon, to use Kakoyanko's expression, right? Or Romano perimos, another word for Romani goulash or gypsy stew in the Keldarás dialect again. And then we've got Romano givechos. Are you familiar with that one? Givechos, depending on the dialect, right? Again, there are various variations, but I learned this from the Ursara speakers, right? Givechos. Yes, yes. Now, I'm just using lexicons. Please try and focus on them only on the language and forget any political, social connotation for now. We're just focusing on meanings here.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I was taught in Pagardi, it's Rumni-Simen.
Okay, I've never heard that before as well. Thank you very much for sharing that, Hannah. Have you heard Romani-Helial or Heliach before, right? Or have you heard Romano Paprikashi? You told us that already, right? This is exactly why we call it different ways as well across the countries and across the various Romani-speaking groups.
Now I have a question.
Yes.
Are we talking about a particular dish? Because there are many different stews,
Yes.
like jania and so on, besides this one particular one. So these are all different names for one particular recipe. Or any.
Yes. So basically, this is based on my experience encountering different Romani speakers from different Romani dialects over the past decades and how they would call the same dish, basically. And this is what I tried to gather here on this slide here, to show you that the different Romani speakers, this is the way they would call the same dish, right? Now, how this dish is made, we are going to learn on Thursday. Unfortunately, I cannot even prepare a tea, and I'm not kidding. Right? Unfortunately, I was raised in a community where I was not taught, and I didn't have the urge to learn anything either. I was being very happy being spoiled in the family. Now, I wanted to show you as well that by this, that if you want to translate Romanes, you have to understand several dialects, right? If you don't, you will get into problems straight away, right? You will only understand people from within your own dialect, but if they come from a different country, understanding them from within your dialect will be challenging as well. So you cannot avoid learning several dialects if you want to become a Romani interpreter. It is a very hard job. I've been learning it since the age of 10, and I'm still learning the dialects, right? It's very, very hard. My best way to learn it is to live with the various Romani speakers, and I had the chance to do that as well throughout my years, throughout my life, mostly through filmmaking. Now, or also through charity work and advocacy works. For example, this community comes from the city of Toflea in Romania, a town actually, not a city, which is halfway between Constanța and Bucharest, right? And they call themselves Ursara Romani speakers. And the Ursara Romani speakers, when they speak Romani in Manchester, for example, or in Leeds, all the other Romani speakers will say, this is not Romani, man. I don't understand them. I don't know what they're saying here, right? But let's just see if it is Romani or not, right? I've got a video here, which I'm going to try and play as long as I can put the volume on here. Share sound, right? And now I'm gonna have to go into Adobe Premiere, right? Okay, I've got the subtitles muted, so I'm not going to say them. So let's play what this lady is saying, and let's try and put together the English translation for the sentence that she will say with all the Romani speakers here in the room, right? And then once we listen to 2 or 3 sound bites, I'm going to show you my version of translation. Okay, let me put it back, right? And I don't have the volume on my computer, but you can still hear it, right? Everybody can hear it. And I'm just wondering if I can ask the organizers to crank it up a little bit so people can better hear it. Yeah, I'm going to play it several times so we can all hear it. Let me put this back. Just the very first sentence, yeah? Did you manage to understand that? Okay, so I will say what she says, right? And then if anybody understands the word, you can translate that into English. Odel te binecuvintiel tumen. If you speak Romanian, you will know. Orhan is smiling already. Please, Orhan, don't tell them. If you guys can come up with what you think this may mean. Te binecuvintiel tumen. Odel te binecuvintiel tumen.
Bine.
Bine is easy, right? Bine,
Yeah,
right?
bine is easy.
Bine and cuvintiel. Right? It's a Romanian word, right? And it means bless, right? That's what it means in Romanian, right? Now let's carry on. Ajes keras galushkes, right? Anybody?
Today we make.
Yes? Yes, in your dialect, right? But in their dialect, it means something different, right? So when I first translated them, I translated it as dumplings or noodles, right? Because that's what galushka means in many of the dialects, right? But in their dialect, it doesn't mean that anymore, right? There was a shift of meaning, and they've been using it in a different connotation for many, many decades. Sorry, there was a hand up there. Sonia, was it you? Yes.
Make a gołąbki because
sarmi.
she handled the yarmin in her
Sarmi.
hands.
Exactly. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Well, as a woman and as an experienced person in the kitchen, I'm sure you immediately managed to get that. Me, I wouldn't be able to figure that, right? Because I can't make any dish. I can only rely on the language, unfortunately. But indeed, she means stuffed cabbage, right? That's what she means, right? Which in many other dialects would be sarma, right? Or other variations are sarmanto, sarmi, depending on the dialect, right? Or perdeshach, if you want to go completely Romani, right? So let's listen a little bit longer. Oh, what was that? Right? I've not heard that word before. Let me tell you, this is not a Romanian word, right? This is a Romanian group, but they are not using a Romanian adopted lexicon. I'm not going to say a long word again. Okay, let me play it one more time, okay? Okay. So some kind of corvuleța, right? Yeah, taicheras.
Aicheras corulețea.
Coruleția. So what I do when I come into such situation, and it very often happens, right? I've got a speaker there and I've got no clue what she says. So what I do is I open Google Translate, right? And I try and play around. I will first try and figure whether this is a Romanian word, right? So I'll try and type in Google Translate, and the AI is going to help me, the auto-suggest, to recognize and suggest me some words, right? So that normally works. If it's not a Romanian word, I'm not going to get any suggestions. So the word starts with a K, so it could be either a C or a K, right? The first letter. And then if you type the first half of the word, if you manage to understand the first half of the word, you should be able to receive auto-suggestions. If you don't think any of those work, then I'm thinking, oh, they are Romanian Ursara, and in their dialect, I know that they use lots of Greek and Turkish loanwords. So these are the two next languages where I'm going to try the word. And I tried it, right? And I found the Greek word, right? Which is exactly means sweets, right? I will show you in a second. But they changed the Greek word. They adapted it to their own reality, right? They didn't borrow it, right? It's not a loanword. You're absolutely right, actually, Kakayanko, by pointing this out, because they made it their own. They embedded it into their own context, and they changed the word. It's not the Greek word anymore. It has become an Ursari word, right? So, and I'll just give you maybe one or two more sentences.
Tradiționalul amaro cabe romano. Tradiționalul amaro cabe romano. Simana cate penia binecuvântii mei, ca el să fie man si gramada celia.
Okay, so now I'm thinking I'm gonna put up the subtitles for you, so you can see it. This is how I normally subtitle. We're gonna go into the details of subtitling at a subsequent session. It's just the translation that we're looking at now. Odelta binecuvântii tu men. May God bless you. Yeah, then in Romani, according to Pachiv, you're supposed to reply and say that you too, right? You cannot just remain silent, right? It's very important to mutually respect each other, right? And then she's carrying on saying, Ajes keras galushkes. The English translation was still missing, that needs fixing. So that's the word she's using there. Koluretia, yeah? And this is from the Greek word kolor, do you remember? Do you know what it is? Yeah, that's the word, kolurakia. Yeah, he just said it, kolurakia, but they made it into Ursari, and it's koluretia. Yeah, that's what's happening here. And we're making sweets, that's all she says.
Tradiționalul amaro cabe romano.
Yeah, tradiționalul amaro cabe romano, where the translation would be our traditional Roma food, okay?
Amaro cabe romano. Simana cate penia binecuvântii mei.
Okay, simanakate penya binecuvintime. Now we are familiar with the word binecuvintiel, yeah? So, simanakate penya binecuvintime. Anybody want to translate that? Oh, you got it there. Sorry, you got the English in the captions already. Okay. Yeah, kai ajutien man si gramada cheia. Okay, ajutien, here we are using a Romanian word which has been adopted and adapted to the Ursari context, right? And they say ajutien, right? And then we got another Romanian loanword in the second part of the sentence, si gramada cheia, gramada, right? Anybody knows what gramada means? Who said it? Sorry. Similar, yeah, it could be like a pile, right? So a pile of girls, but yeah, so basically a group of Roma girls. That would be the translation. To follow the advice Hadina was telling us, that you cannot do a word for word, but a sense by sense translation, right? So that's what I wanted to show you, that the Ursari dialect, you can figure out the Ursari dialect as well, right? You just need to understand a little bit about the journey of the given group, right? What countries they were migrating through and what languages they were in contact with. And then you won't have too many options to choose from, right? And then you can do your research on Google Translate very easily, and within 1 minute you will figure the actual word that they are trying to use here, right? So let's go back now to the presentation. Here we go. We had a look at them going into slide mode, right? So the next sentence you're going to translate, right? It seems like a fairly easy sentence question, right? Can you run? Okay? It's a very easy, it sounds like it, right? It should be easy. Can we translate it into one version that would be understood by all the other Romani dialects? This is always my dilemma, right? When I translate at conferences, interpret at conferences, when I'm doing consecutive interpretation, or when I'm translating a document, I'm always striving to come up with a version which everybody will understand, right? Now, when I do that, I'm always thinking through the dialects. How do the Ursara say that? How do the Kelderash say that? Etc. The Rumungri, the Gurbeti, the Bergitka, how do they say that, right? And I'll try and come up with the various versions. So actually, yeah, this one probably many of us will know, right? Shainashes, right? Shainashes. Now this may be translated differently, right? If you heard the Romani first, right? It may not necessarily grab the ability here, can, right? Do you have the physical ability? That's what we are referring to here, right? Do you have the physical ability to run? Can you run, right? Another well, we do not only run when we run away.
I think what you're saying is there's a difference between shainashes and shaiprastes.
Prastas.
Prastas.
Prastas, yeah, prastas.
Well, one is flee and one is just run.
In my opinion, the prastas, I heard it when I was growing up, right? My uncle was in the field with a horse, right? And then he was telling my cousin, Jamo, prastave grastes, right? Yeah, go and you gallop the horse, right? Yeah, you know, there's a certain pace that the horse is running in. But there are other ways, like the Kelderash, right? Which I heard among the Kelderash in Page where I grew up. Many would say revdistenashes, but sometimes V will change into B, right? Depending on what contact language the given Kelderash group had in their journey, and they will say revdistenashes instead of revdis. But then this one here, ashtiestenaches. Wow! Anybody heard this before? Mm-hmm. Right? This is the Ursara. But then I thought to myself, how is that possible? How did they put this together? And then I remembered all my encounters with Romanian speakers, with Romanian Romani speakers, with Bulgarian Romani speakers, with Christoph, for example, where they say, menashti sarav tejav, right? So the word nashti, right, which means cannot, right, is used, made into a verb, right? And they use it as a verb as well, right? So Christoph would say, menashti sarav tejav, jusierti sarmange, he will say, right? And then I was thinking, well, this could be this is very probably the opposite of nashti, which is ashti, right? Which my dialect lost, right? We don't have it in our dialect anymore. We only kept nashti, right? But we lost ashti. And the Ursara kept ashti as well.
I believe it's also, or was in Welsh Romani.
Is it? Really?
And it's very close to Sanskrit.
Oh,
also.
really?
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Wow, I didn't know that. So glad we got Kakoyanko here. Christo, what was it you were saying? Sorry? They also say that. Thank you very much, Christo. Right?
Wait, what
and then
was Welsh Romani? What was Welsh Romani?
Welsh Romani pen? Sarpenen ando Wales, Akale? Ashti?
Not anymore. Maybe a long time ago.
Okay, because I was always taught run was gel or gel.
That's jal, yeah, from jal, which is to go.
Yeah.
Right? That means to go. Now the next one, biristenashes.
Yeah.
You heard this before?
That's Hungarian, isn't it?
Yeah, bir, it comes from the Hungarian bir, as Kakoyanko revealed it to us, right? And the Lovara and the Kalderash speakers are very often, and the Churara too, use this word as an auxiliary. Now, the next one, Možete našes. I heard this one very often in former Yugoslavian countries. Hannah?
In Norwegian, Romani, we say hankar dero nashya. Nashya. So it's like Nashya.
Hankar, what does that mean?
Hankar is to be. Can you?
Can you?
Yeah, so can you run?
All right.
But-
Janusz, actually, guys, can we just make sure we sing happy birthday to Janusz at the end of the session, please? Thank you, Orba.
And the Mariship, the Vlachuria dialect, we have the same thing, like ashtis, tapanas dashtis.
Yes.
Ali dashides also. Dashides.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. Indeed, indeed. I didn't put all the dialects up on the slide. Again, I'm just giving examples. And please do not get offended if you don't find your dialect on the slide, right? I didn't have the chance to include everyone's. Sonia?
In which dialect is Možete našes?
Yeah, many Romani dialects in former Yugoslavian countries would use this.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
In American Kalderash, you got dastivte and nashtivte.
Exactly, and not just the American Kalderash, the Kalderash in Europe as well. You use the same thing, the dashtis, the nashtis, right? And we use it as a verb as well. Now, let's go into the next slide. You know Catullus, right, from ancient Rome, right? Everybody knows this very famous elegiac couplet. Is that how I?
Yeah.
Elegiac couplet, right? This is the rhythm, yeah, of the elegiac couplet there. This is indicating long and short syllables, right? So this is the original text, right? Odiet amo quareit facam fortassere quiris, nescioset fieri, sentioet excrucior. Hard to pronounce Latin, right? So in English, this may sound like, I hate and I love you might ask, how do I explain it? I do not know, but I feel it happening and it tears me apart, right? And then if you think, is Romani language rich enough to translate an elegiac couplet into Romani, right? Many would say, no, it's not possible, right? It's absolutely not possible. But I think if you learn the dialects, right? And if you're a poet or translator of artistic work, then you will have to understand all the varieties that are out there in the various dialects that you can choose from to make sure that, for example, your words will alliterate or rhyme, etc., etc. So this is another English version, and then this is what I came up with, right? So rush te rushes, to hate, right? This is in Daniel. Are you familiar with this? Te rushes. Or? What does that mean? So narush pemande, what does that mean?
Don't be angry with me.
Or hate, right? That's the other word for it, right? To hate someone, right? Rushel pemande, marush pemande, don't hate me, right? You could translate it into English. So to make sure that my syllables will add up exactly as in the original text, I decided to use the word rush instead of my own word, which would be different in my dialect, right? So I'm saying, and I'm going to read this out for you guys. Rush keravai vikamavsar, pushlanasai so keravme, sarjanavai moilo, dondema parravela. Yeah, you hear the rhythm in it, right? It's exactly what the elegiac couplet should sound like. So it is possible, right, to do very serious literary translations with Romani language. It's a very, very strong language. We'll look into some other possibilities of Romani translation on a subsequent slide. The word custom in Romani language, right? I'm just wondering if anybody can offer their own version from their own dialect for the word custom.
Forma?
Zakono is more like law, right? That's more like law. For custom. It is originally, but it's an adopted lexicon, as we learned earlier today from Kakoyanko, right? It's not a loan word, it's an adopted lexicon that many Romani speakers adopted and embedded into their own context and made it Romani, right? So zakono is law. So custom, anybody else? Be free to use the non-Romani word, which sounds non-Romani.
We say adeti.
Adeti. I think I've got that on, actually, I think I've got that here. Obichayi, right? It is Slavic, but it's been adopted in many Romani dialects, right? And I grew up with it, for example, right? Our family being Serbian, right? I grew up with this word. I knew this word very well, right? Odeti, right? Exactly. We've got that there. Dunkta, you heard it? Anybody has a clue which dialect this could be? Hannah? You're an expert of Creole languages.
Far from it.
Come on.
Is that Finnish right there?
It's actually Sinti. Yeah,
Oh,
Sinti say
okay.
dunkta for custom, right?
Okay.
Let's carry on. This word drum, right? There are, in many, many contexts, I heard drum being used for custom, right? And if you think about it, yeah, it could mean that too. And then, sorry, Hannah, yeah, go on.
I just wanted to say I've been wanting to look into Sinti for like years now. So if you have a resource to give me, please send it my way.
But I've got friends, right? And I'm learning from them, but I can introduce you to my friends, right? No problem.
Horta.
And I have to introduce you to Coco Bob as well from Wales, who still speaks Scala, right? He's 80 odd years old and he still speaks it. Now, the other version I wanted to show you, Sokashis. Have you heard this one before? This comes from Hungarian, right? And many Romani speakers in Slovakia would use this word as well. But also Lovara speakers will say Sokashi, right?
Sometimes you hear, although it means more like behavior, nai Romani forma.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. True. Then another one I heard from Romani speakers, again, in Slovakia or Czech Republic, for this they said Purikani pen, which I thought was very beautiful. Yes?
I would like to say that Purikano, then someone is Purikano, it's mean in our dialect that some behave like adult, but he's not adult, his behave is like so Purikano Rom, Purikano Chavo, that
Yeah, so I think what you want to say is that the behavior does not match the age. So someone is trying to behave more, sophisticated, older than he actually is, or more mature than he actually is.
Say that in the mic, please, Dalibor.
I'm sorry, Purano in my early dialect. Puro. You can say and Puro. Puro and Puri. Puro and Puri. It's a...
Purano.
Yeah, you're right.
Purikano is an adjective.
Yeah,
puro
you're
type
right,
puro.
you're right.
But
You're right.
adjective which is used for non-animate objects. Purorom, puriromni, no purikano ker, purano ker. This is for non-animate. Yeah. No. Anyway, but this is what he found in different dialects, and this is not something which he created.
This was one of the variants I came across, and then this is another one I found in the book I received today from Kakoyanko, in Marsa's book, may he rest in peace, Achar, right? I've not heard it before. Anyone familiar with it?
I would like to say that achar is in my dialect. It means katesav kerestarsav, acharsav. What kind of family you belong and what kind of behavior you get from this family. So achar, it's achar like means acharsav, so kerestarsav. It's like this more.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you very much. All right. So another sentence here, right? The roof is creaking, right? I'm wondering if you guys can translate that into your own dialect. The roof is creaking. What's roof and what's creaking in Romani? In your dialect. Nishko? In the mic, please. We cannot hear you.
Oh, tavano, no? Is roof, we would say.
Tavano.
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 Probably Turkish. Why?
Yeah.
Tavano is Turkish. Okay. Creaking. Supposed to creak.
You know, I got this from my dialect, but I think both are loan words, right?
Chateau.
Adopted
Oh,
lexicon.
chateau. Chateau.
Chateau. Okay, I've not heard that before, Nick. I'll be honest with you. This is in my dialect, right? You see, this is a fairly easy sentence, right? And we are getting into very huge obstacles. This is what I want to demonstrate with that. In my dialect, where I grew up, we say skirtsil e shundra, right? I've got an uncle, his name is Shundra, right? And it's there for a reason. I will tell you privately why it's called Shundra, why he's called Shundra. Skirtsil e shundra, right? Now another one. What happened in Romanes, please, in your dialects? What happened?
Sopezacia.
Very good. Sopesacia, yes.
Sopeskerdzia.
Sopeskerdzia is another good one. Yes. Are you guys familiar with that form? Ulo. Yeah. Now, if you think what happened, Ulo, right? Yes, Hannah?
Never mind.
Nick, did you want to say something?
Soavilo.
Yeah, that could be it. But Ulo is I think, I don't know if this could have been, I'm not too sure what your opinion is, Kakoyanko, an auxiliary and the past tense of be. I'm not too sure.
It is.
Archaically, this is what I've been contemplating.
It is exactly that,
right?
yeah.
And it's so beautiful, right? And if you think about the word duramendar, mulo, right? And ulo, right? Yeah. What happened? Something passed away. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It is, I would say, neutral, really. You know, so ulo, what happened? It's not positive, not negative either. And another way in my dialect, we say it's so pelo, but so petsisailo, right?
You know what the American Calderasha say? So hapni sarde.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Which is an adopted lexicon, right? Now, so petsisailo, yeah. So, I'm wondering if we can translate this, and I'm asking the early speakers not to translate this time, right? But all the other Romani speakers who don't speak early, can you translate this either into your own dialect or into English, right? This is a specific early sentence. I will read it, right? Sium sine kidiz, tai kergium lafi ole da sensar, te keren shujo, tsalo pubero menge talai purt pashilen.
It's not too difficult.
It's not difficult. That's why I wanted to give it exactly, Kakoyanko. So anybody from Slovakia, for example, or Poland? Sium sine. Okay, let's take it. Let's break it down. Sium sine. All right. Okay, there's big silence there, right? Sium sine. When I first heard from Seido, actually, yeah, Orhan. Yeah, don't tell. You can tell us. Please tell us. Please tell us.
Intuition.
Shuncha
kadej. Kerdziom olafi da sensa sokeren shujo. I don't know that word.
Can you say this in English? What you were saying now, please.
Please, listen.
No, we don't have the word listen in it.
No.
But carry on if you want to. Yeah. Orhan, please.
Simas.
I've been to the city and I talked to Gadje.
What kind of Gadje?
Well, Macedonians.
Dasa, savez si je dasa?
Kodla su se džungalena. With those Gadje. Kava su se calo.
What I heard was that Dasa are the Christians.
Yes, the Christian Gaje.
I talked to Gaje to all
See, it's not easy.
Yeah, I try.
To make the all
Now, is this
whole
Kalo
area.
or Tsalo?
Tsalo.
Celo is Slavic whole. All.
Exactly. Thank you.
Romenge. That means to clean up all the area from under the
Bridge.
under the bridge, close to the river.
So in Bergitka Romani, this would sound like me somas androphoros tai vakerdiom legagetsar te spratinen tsalo puv eromenge tala I. Do you guys say purt for bridge?
Podo.
Yeah, you say purt, yeah? Tala I purt, pas I, and I'm not sure if you guys use len for river. You just say pani, water. You call, yeah, pasho pani. Yeah, so you call it water, right? You call it water. But this is the word for river, right? Len. It's Sanskrit. It's the origin of is Sanskrit of this word, right?
Yeah.
Ilen. So as you see, yeah, this is a very simple sentence again. We're not even talking about any political or scientific text yet, right? And it's pretty challenging to find a translation that would work across the different dialects, right? But this was the Arli dialect, right? And this would be my translation. What I heard was that dasa is used in reference to non-Muslims. This is what somebody told me many years ago at a conference.
No, that's okay, but in Romani das means gajo.
Yeah.
In Bosnia, if you say das, you are thinking about the Croat for a Christian.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I heard. Thank you, Hedina.
If you say gajo, you are thinking about Orthodox people from Serbia.
This is exactly what I heard. Thank you so much.
In Bulgaria, if you say das, it means Christian Bulgarians. If you say gajo, it means Turkish population.
That's another thing I heard.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christo. And Nishko also wanted to... Can you pass the mic to Nishko, please, somebody? Please make sure you pass the mics around so the online audience can also hear the interventions.
So das for us, we say is like a boss of somebody who is in charge of you. You listen to the das, but it's always gajo, that's the das, okay? And these I don't know.
Thank you very, very much. Let's move on, guys, yeah? Let's move on. Now we're... Hannah, I'll give it to you before we go on. Okay?
Okay. Actually, I put this into Scando Romani because I write that better. Mero digra a rakrate burroanna. That was the first line. That was as far as I got.
That was pretty nice. If you finish it, can you send it to me? So
yeah,
I can
I'll
use
take
it
a
in future
picture.
presentations. It's beautiful. Let me just say here, just point out one thing for speak, right? In Creole Romani in Kale Romani, for example, in Wales, in England, throughout the UK, in Catalonian Romani, in Calo, they will say Raquel, right? Which is proper Indian, right? That's the most archaic form of speak, Raquel, not Vaquer. Vaquer is already a variation, right? Raquel is the most archaic. And interestingly, the Creole Romani variant preserved it today. It's so cool. I'm so proud of you guys. Thank you for sticking to the most ancient stuff.
Okay, maybe we should stop a little bit here and to continue with the discussion about how the identity is expressed in translation using Romani from any language to Romani or from Romani to any language. We were discussing that little bit. Ian Hancock will reflect on this topic, and I would like actually to have a discussion with the audience about this. What do you think and how do you feel? How much the Romani identity is preserved in our translations? It doesn't matter which dialect we speak, which kind of religion we have, and from which part of the world we come. So, what do you think? Kako Janko.
Jussi brought up a fundamental problem that we have, which for each And I am trying to introduce this word Ndani. It's not a common word, but if you read books about, quotes, gypsies, especially older books, they like to refer to the different groups as tribes, gypsy tribes. I don't like this word. The social structure is not necessarily tribal, but we have an old word, Ndani. I believe it's a Greek word originally, which I'm trying to use to mean each different group, so that the Sinti are one Ndani, and the Kale are another Ndani, and so on. And within each Ndani, there are subgroups. And as Juicy said, if you belong to your group and speak the dialect of your own group, you think this is the main one on the planet, and other people don't speak properly because they don't speak the way you do. And we have to get beyond this. And tomorrow, when I give a presentation, I'm going to try and explain why this situation exists. And what I will stress tomorrow is the actual importance of education, to know about why we are so diverse as one people in the broadest sense, and yet divided at the basic level. We have, where I live in Texas, we have about 4 different Ndanya in Austin. They don't talk to each other. Some of them go to the same church, the born-agains share a church, but they don't socialize after church, and each one stays alone. And if we were more cohesive, and if we understood a lot more about our history, this situation could be a lot different, and our voice would be a lot stronger. But the topic, I think, that Christo stressed is identity, and it ties into this. Even within the Romani world, it still comes down to identity. Well, we're the real ones. Those people, they're not Gaje, but they're not real Romani people either. We are the real ones. And this is identity, and it's destructive. And since in the past few years, people have access to their DNA results, lots and lots of people are discovering that they are in fact Romanis, because their DNA shows something. And this also comes back to the question of identity. Can you claim Romani identity because you've got some genetic material from centuries ago? Of course not. So it's a complicated situation, because even in the real Romani world, there are these issues of, well, who's real and who's not real. So I don't want to give tomorrow's presentation this evening.
No, I don't think that you should give tomorrow's presentation, but I was, for example, I have here the book which Papusha wrote, and we know that actually the book, the poems of Papusha were to some extent changed and adapted by Wisłocki, and whatever, Gajo, who was supporting very much Papusha in her writings and etc. But when we read her poems, for example, and there is this, although that there was a lot of change and influence from a Gajo author, and now recently some of the researchers, Victor Shapoval and Julieta Rotaru from Romania, Victor Shapoval from Russia, they found the originals of Papusha's poems, and they were trying to publish them. So, for example, in Vesheskri Gili, Ach mire vesha na parujombi andre sveto baro, nipal so pale sovnakaya, ilache bara, polache bara, keren shukar yaga, and all these cultural elements which are typical for Roma culture, bara, yaga, and this and that, they are somehow preserved. And one of the most important issue is if we have a text or fairy tale in English, how we are going to translate it into Romani. Some of the fairy tales, we know that they are collected and published in English. And how do you feel about this issue when we translate from English or any other official language to Romani? And what kind of strategies should be used in order to be preserve that Romani pen in the fairy tales, that when we have the fairy tale, not to sound Gajikano fairy tale with Roma words. Very often we can see that it happens in the poems or in the fairy tales or in translated works. How do you feel about this, and what do you think about this issue? And especially for younger generations who are not, I mean, we know that one part of our younger generation don't speak anymore Romani, and how we are bringing back this to them, to see this beauty of the language, and that in the language is preserved that Romani pe. Can you a little bit reflect on that?
And after that, I would like to carry on and answer the question as well.
In sociolinguistics, there is a maxim that language is the vehicle of culture. And if you lose the language, you're starting also to lose the culture. And one of the examples I give very often is the word in Romani, which is chanamik. There's no English equivalent of this word because the culture, the Anglo-Saxon culture, doesn't have a room in the kinship structure for the relationship between my father and my wife's father. So there's no need for a word in English. You would have to say co-male parent-in-law and use a whole lot of words for chanamik. But if you lose the language, you've lost that word, and you've also lost the significance of that cultural family structure, which is very, very important. With the poetry, with Papusha's poetry, then we must ask, who is the audience for her poetry? Is it other Romanis, or is it for the non-Romani world? It's equally important depending on who the audience is. If it's a Romani readership, then what we're doing is translating from Polska Romani into Kalderash or something else. in which case the imagery won't be unfamiliar for the most part. But if you are translating her writings, her poetry into, let's say, English or French or German or something else, just a little book of her poetry won't be enough. They would have to be accompanied by a lengthy description of the culture and what those references mean, what their significance is. They're not just pretty words, they mean something culturally as well. It's like having to study Shakespeare. It's not enough just to read a Shakespearean play. You have to know about life in the time of Shakespeare to see what the hidden references are. So that's a lot of hard work, but it's...
You mentioned Shakespeare here, right? Hamlet's soliloquy, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Soliloquy?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, soliloquy. To be or not to be, that is the question, right? Many thought that it is really not possible to translate it. There's been lots of discussions for many years. And I believe the strategy which I'm suggesting to you, right, since the beginning of the presentation, learn other dialects, right? And then you will have a wider variety of words to choose from. You will realize that there are other dialects that cat words that you lost, right? Because there's been a continuous language loss going on, as highlighted by Christo and Hadina earlier as well in their presentations. So in this example right here, following the exact number of syllabuses and also giving back the exact meaning, to be or not to be, that is the question. I'm wondering if you guys could translate that. I gave that as an assignment in a group called Pan Romanes on Facebook. There are thousands of Romani speakers in that group, and everybody had an issue translating the very first line of to be or not to be, that is the question, right? So you get to the same number of syllables as well, and you follow the author's style too. But you also bring in your own words, right? The equivalent Romani words, right? Now, in your free time, you're very welcome to go through this, right? I'm not going to give this to you, but you're welcome to come up with your own translation as well, right? But this is mine. I may just give you the first 4 lines, right? In English first. To be or not to be, that is the question. In Romani, te avelpe, te nalpe, si opusipe. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer, can my raisi ovoji te haladuk, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, eplikazange grijandar strelandar, or to take arms against the sea of troubles, Bacteleria galo pederiav ebayongi, right? Now here I've got words which I learned from other dialects, right? I come from Hungary originally. Hungary never had a sea, right? Actually, it had historically before, but in the time that I was spending there, it never had a sea. So I learned this from other dialects, right? And then I applied it in my translation. So this is why I'm very highly suggesting to all of you not to be afraid to learn other dialects, right? It's an amazing experience, I need to tell you that. Now, another, Hannah? I will get to the identity as well, Christo. Just please allow me to proceed with the presentation. Hannah? Hannah? Did
you wanted to say something, Hannah?
Hannah, did you not want to say anything?
If not,
You just said to learn other dialects, and I went, don't forget Creoles.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Chantal?
Yes, I find.
Please grab the mic.
Thank you. I find, I like the example you choose with Shakespeare, because Shakespeare borrowed a lot of his story in the popular culture. And I know at least one paramici, which has been told to me by the Rome of France in Paris, and it's Romeo and Juliet. And I find it's interesting to be or not to be, because so many paramici start like that. I never have thought about that.
Thank you. Now, another example which I wanted to bring to you, again, you're welcome to read this in your free time. I'm not going to give this so we can save time for discussion. Tiger from William Blake, right? A very famous poem, right? tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night. Now let's just try and cope with the first two lines, right? This is my version, but I would be very happy to hear your translation as well. Tiger, tiger, burning bright, right? Now, burning bright is a hard one to get here in this line. So we matched the number of syllables too. I decided to use a word which describes a bright burning process, right? And in my dialect, I grew up with pabol, right? But I wanted it to alliterate. And instead of choosing my own word, which I grew up with, I decided to use the word which I heard in Slovakia and in the Balkans, tabliol, right? Tigro, tigro, tabliola, right? It sounds very good. There are three T's next to each other, right? And then I was like, in the forests of the night. So as Hadina explained to us before, you cannot and you shouldn't do a word for word translation. It has to be a sense by sense, right? So I'm saying here, andevesha, anderiat, right? And then sodevleske bastvadjak kerde chisimetria, right? Which is trying to follow the original. It's trying to give back the taste of it, the number of syllables as well, and the pictures, images used by the poet. And you're very welcome to go through the rest of it in your free time. And I'm also very highly suggesting you, if you're thinking about getting into translation, learning the skills of translation and word choices and making decisions and finding the right strategies is very good through translating poems, right? Now, this is another thing, and I'm going to get to the identity soon as well, which Hristo and Janko were discussing before. But before that, I want to highlight something very, very important, right? And I'm going to ask the Romani speakers in the room to help me out with elaborating my next point on this slide. How would you translate into Romani, op, adult Roma husband? Please use the word upre, yeah? Op, yeah? Op, adult Roma husband. Say the whole sentence in a vocative, please. It's a vocative sentence. There's an exclamation mark. Upre Romea. Okay. Any other version, Thomas?
It depends. What does up there mean in English? Because if you say up the hammers, you don't mean ustali the hammers. You mean hammers on top. So
exactly.
you've got an ambiguous English sentence there. So of course there is no one correct Romani translation. There are at least two, both of which could be rendered by the English.
True, very, very true. Here it's the physical location, right? So up, you stand up, right? And
then usti maybe, yeah. Usti Romea.
Usti is a good one, but here what I'm trying to show you guys is through the word opre or upre, right? And you will understand why. Now this one, please again use the word opre or upre. Op adult Roma wife. Upre Romnie, okay? In your dialect, previously you said upre Romea, and then you said upre Romnie, okay? Let's carry on. And how would you say, Dalibor, op Roma people? Please say it in the mic.
Opre Roma. Upre Roma.
Romale.
Romalen. Romalen, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Which one is correct? You tell me now.
Upre Romalen.
Upre Romalen.
Yes.
Is that the correct version? I'm asking you again.
Yeah.
Everybody heard that. He said that is the correct version, right? This is my version, yeah, of translation. In certain groups of dialects, for an adult Roma husband, you adult Roma husband, you will say, in my dialect, opre Roma. Yeah, that's to a singular person, an adult male who follows the Romani laws. But in other dialects, they will say upre Romea, right? Now, again, these are the two variants I came across myself, and I'll give it to you, Helen, in a second. Let me just finish this point. Opre Romniale, yeah? Or upre Romnialen. There's an N at the end, right? And then op Roma people would be opre Romale or upre Romalen. Now think about the slogan of the Roma movement. What is it? So what does that mean? Opre Roma, what does that mean in the vocative? Can anybody translate it back into English? It's on the slide.
It's one person.
Yeah, and yeah, it's one person and it's a male, right? You're talking to one male, one person. So no wonder the Roma movement didn't get too far over the last 50 years. So basically, this is a conversation we were having in written correspondence with Kako Janko and Kako Toma, right? And we all agreed that this is something that needs to be corrected. Sanya?
I would like to say that in the first, I would say that has the to do premore. That will be also has the to do premore. Why not? Why not? Because the Roma for me is to give some passive, you know, that you don't say one per one, you say in the third person, you know, that two men to marry, you know, you don't say you know, in our language. So for me, upre Roma, it's more, you know, with some respect. But, you know, when you I don't know, you are in the same age, you can say, has the tubu premore, for example.
Would you say more to a woman as well?
No.
You see, this is what I'm talking
but I
about.
said about the first, you know.
Right? So I'm thinking, if you think about the movement slogan, right, then we probably need to update that, right? We should at least make it grammatically correct, right? So one of the suggestions, which we were discussing with some of you, including Debbie as well, is maybe that one of the results that comes out of the Summer Institute is that we are making a suggestion to change Opre Roma to Opre Romale or Upre Romalen, right? Or come up with something else, right? But we need to correct it the way it is. Now,
Josie,
I would get onto the identity bit. Who was that? Who was that?
it's me.
Daniel.
So I was just thinking about like the English sentence up, you know, up adult Roma husband. I think the up. I mean, it should be in my thinking. It should be like elevate yourself, you know, in a way, not like get up like ushti, but like to elevate yourself over a situation, right? Because we say that as opre Roma as a way of empowerment, really, no?
Ushtiar.
Now, if you remember the workshop I was giving, I started with a song, and this is exactly how I started as Daniel suggested it, right? With a song which says, Ushten opre Romale. Nishko, you wanted to say something? Oh, look at that, amazing. Okay, we got that. So now let's move on to the identity bit here, which was addressed previously here by Kako Janko, as well as Kako Christo. Now I found my slide. Here we go.
Is it all right if I...
So we heard both from Hedina as well as from Christo that Romani-Pe is Romani culture, right? In short, if you wanted to give it a translation, right? A vague translation. It's not exact, but if you say Romani-Pe, it kind of means Romani culture, right? What was the first one? Romani ties?
Yes, it's a translation of Romani ties, which means that you're in a network, and Romani culture.
I think this one would be Romani culture here in this context. Romani ties is different.
I like Romani-ness.
Romani-ness.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole
That's more
essence
precise.
of being Romani.
Yeah.
In English.
With an English
In
suffix.
English,
Yeah,
yeah.
with an English suffix.
Romania in Calderash.
Yeah, we say it. We say Romania. We also say Tsigania.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's you're speaking my dialect now, right? And I don't want to put my dialect over other dialects now. Do you mind, Chantal, if we give it to Hannah over there? And there are several hands in the back.
I just wanted to give you the English and Scando-Romani versions, which is for women, apre Romani-Rakli or apre Gale.
Guys, can we wait for Hannah to finish her point, and then you're very welcome to reflect to it.
Then apre Romani-Rai or apre Galo, and then opre Vandriana or opre Romani-Kinchis.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm sure nobody in the group here ever heard these. So thank you very much.
I can give you Ukrainian variant.
Yes.
Ușiu pre-purograst.
Nu știu pe ne zgădea. This is not correct.
Get up, you old horse, right?
Yeah.
A bit of joke is nice to have, I think. Thank you very much, Janusz. Now, regarding Romani Pay, yeah, that's Romani culture. What is Romani judiciary law? That's again a vague thing, but you know what I'm referring to. Anybody can tell me?
Chris.
Thank you very much, Kakoyanko. Yeah, that's Greece, right? Now, you remember, yeah, there are various words that have been formed from the word Greece. Krisnitori, right? That's what I grew up with in my dialect, we say Krisnitori. But I heard also Krisari, right, from other Romani speakers, for the chief judge or the judge, right? Then Krisipe or Krisimos, right? Which is the hearing, the trial itself, right? Trial, I would say in English. But what is Romani customary law? That's statuses, right? Those are statuses in Romaniness, right? Those are statuses that you can achieve as you grow up. But what would be the law itself? Hang on. What is customary law, right? Anybody knows what customary law is? Only me? Come on. Nobody else knows what customary law is. Can we give an example of what customary law is? Thank you very much. In England? Nobody knows what the customary law in England is. Come on. So customary law is the uncodified state of the laws of a certain nation, right? Civil law. Thank you very much. Civil law, right? Another word to use that. Or another example I can give you so you better understand, the 12-table Roman laws, right? They were customary law as well in the past. It's all part of that, but also the statuses you can gain in the Romani world where you grow up, but also the behavior and all the rules that you need to apply in the Romani world when you're in the Romani world, right? And these are thousands and thousands of rules that have never been codified, never been described, and it's passed down from one generation to another, mostly by showing, by copying, by mimicking, and many of it verbally as well, right? Not just, no, not just. Romani Pay, actually in my family, because kids spend most of the times in my family with the mother, it was our mother who passed most of Romani Pay over to us. But obviously it's not just my mother, my father and their siblings and my cousins and the elderly, and everybody will teach you Romani Pay in the Romani community, because it is always about Romani Pay. That's the number one thing in the Romani world, nothing else.
Some years ago, there was a book which was called Gypsy Law. I don't remember who was...
Walter Weihrauch.
Yeah. And I think you had an article there, Jan?
Just a
Thomas
lexicon.
had an article. Did you have an article there, Thomas? Yeah. Yeah, and I think there was also a journal which also had a special issue on Romani law, but I cannot recall which journal was that. Okay, yeah, I know that I have somewhere at home the copy of that journal, but I don't remember. So for the students, if you are interested in these issues, you can try to search the book, the Gypsy Law, it was the title?
Gypsy Law. Yeah.
Gypsy Law.
The editor is Walter Weihrauch. And it was of significance because it's an issue in the United States when groups, cultural ethnic groups, such as Romani Americans, such as Amish people, Hasidic Jews, native First Nations people have laws, cultural laws, customary laws, which are actually illegal in national law. For example, American law forbids arranged marriages, but arranged marriages are the regular behavior in lots of minority populations.
Yeah.
So you have to behave in secret and just do it in secret because you're breaking the law. And that's why this book, Gypsy Law, came at the right time.
I actually have a film as well, which I showed a clip of to you guys last week, right? The Gypsy Matchmaker, which is looking at that. And in the community where I grew up, as well as, and this is the important thing, in all the Romani groups that I came across and over the last 30 years, I found traces or different forms of this customary law, right? We call it, in my group, we call it Pachiv, right?
So respect.
It's like the unscripted book of honor, right? Pachiv, the immediate, the first meaning of Pachiv is honor, right? Honor and respect, I would say. So that's the word, right? Pachiv. Another variant of this is Pakiv, right? Now, some of my Indian-speaking friends say that even though this refers to a different institution, right? But in India, there is this village court system or the village elderly council, which is called, anybody knows?
Panchayat.
Thank you very much, Kakoy uncle. Thank you very much. So glad you're here. Exactly. Panchayat, right? And they were thinking, they're suggesting, some of the scholars in India suggesting that Pachiv may come from that. However, I have a Persian-speaking friend in the UK, a playwright himself, and he says this exists in Persian, man, right? And it means honor, right? That's what he told me. Yeah. Orhan, can you grab the mic, please, because we're not going to hear you. Can somebody give the mic to Orhan, please? And Chantal, you can have it after that, please. Is the mic on?
Yeah, we hear you.
Pachal, I believe you.
Yeah. Misto. Mena pacha te vakera English. Mena pachavka I pachiva velka taro panchayat. O panchayat si sistema kris.
Exactly, you're right. Yeah. So Orhan is saying that.
I am thinking in Romani, that's why I speak.
Yeah, I don't believe that Pachiv comes from the word panchayat. That's Kris. That's the equivalent of Kris.
It's 5 people.
But yeah, panchayat is 5, yes. Panj. But that group of villagers who are deciding about important issue is kind of a Kris we have among us Roma. Second, I believe that Pachiv is coming from Pachav, to believe. So whatever community decide, they have to believe that is truth.
Yeah, in some dialects the verb is pakyav, and exactly this is the meaning of the verb.
To and other aspirants.
Yeah, to believe or to trust someone.
I think there's more research to be done on this because the meaning of Pachiv is not belief, but honor, right? That's the exact meaning of the word Pachiv.
Yes, honor is when you say Pachivalo.
Honorable, Pachivalo, honorable in the male gender, right? But Pachiv exactly means honor. It doesn't mean anything else.
Maybe Nazik has to say.
It doesn't mean believe. Sorry, Orhan. It means honor. Ask any Romani speaker, and in your dialect as well, it means honor, I'm sure.
And it also
sorry,
is...
Chantal wanted to have the word, and let's give her the opportunity to speak. Can somebody give her the mic, please, so the online audience can also follow her? You got the mic behind you.
It's a celebration also to honor an individual. Yes.
Pachivales or Pachivelesa, I don't know. Could it mean with respect? Respect, Pachiv. But because it's a good, concept to teach kids. I don't know what would be the appropriate form, but Pachiv.
That is a very concrete question, Chantal. Thank you very much. In my opinion, my answer to that question would be Pachivalo. If you just say respectful or honorable is not a precise translation. It means somebody who understands what the Romani laws are and completely follows them, right? Never ever breaks them and never ever broke them in his or her life. That's what it means.
Thank you.
Right? Now, guys, let me just carry on. Sorry, did you want to have the word now?
No, I'll be the guardian of the mic.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that. Please help us out with that. Now, I came up with this diagram for you guys in my workshop, right? And this is based on my experience, which I found across all of the Romani groups. Now, in the UK, when I moved to the UK permanently 11 years ago, I was thinking to myself that the Romani Chars are not Roma, man. You know, I was thinking they're not Romani speakers. I was thinking, they look more Irish to me, you know? They're all white as the Irish are, and they're not like us, the Roma. In the census, they call themselves white. They got a white box for the Romani Chars. And we, East European Roma, have always been accused of not being white, right? So it didn't come together for me. However, as I started forming bonds with Romani Char families, as I started visiting their homes, eating their food, having parties with them, I realized that these guys do almost everything the same way as we do it, as we grew up. The relationships, the statuses you acquire as you grow up within the community, right, is basically the same, right? And I just couldn't believe that, right? When I got closer to the community and I managed to get rid of my own prejudices, which I grew up with or I've been fed with, I realized that there is lots of commonalities. But again, when I went to Bulgaria, for example, and I met Bulgarian Roma who were speaking very differently to how I grew up, right? And there were some old Bulgarian Roma, I remember at a conference, it was one of my first conferences, sat at a table, and when you see Pure Roma, when you see old people, old Roma people, the first thing you do is you show respect, you show pachiv, yeah, you show honor. So what I did was, I told them, as in my dialect we would do, I greeted them, right? I asked drinks for them, right? And all they did was, and they carried on conversating. Now I thought, I must have been very rude to them. Because in my culture, when you do that, the elderly is supposed to pay respect to you as well. It's not just a one-sided thing, right? We are doing this all together. We are all participating in this. But then I realized when I got into a conversation with them that, yeah, maybe they have lost this greeting thing, right? Which we are doing in the Kelderash and then the Lovari community. But they had the rest, right? They had everything else, right? So the roles as a father, as a mother, as a boy, as a son, as a daughter, as a cousin, as a grandfather, as a grandmother, all the roles they had as well. Now this diagram for Romani pair, which I came up with and I'm suggesting for everyone really as a theory in the future to contemplate on and to reflect on and to critically analyze, is what I found was if, for example, your Romani group has the language but doesn't have Kris, and lost the traditional occupations, if it has the language, it will also have pachiv, right? So if you got only, say, pachiv, because you lost the language, you lost Kris, and you lost your traditional occupation, you will have Romani pa. Or you lost the language, you don't have Kris, you don't have pachiv, but you are a musician, a violinist, right? If you are a violinist, you will have pachiv too, right? So if you find yourself on this diagram, anywhere in that point, you have Romani pa, right? And I've been thinking all my life, just like Kakayanko, about Yekipe, which is the title of his presentation tomorrow. I'm very, very excited to listen to it tomorrow. I'm thinking that this is a diagram that can help all of the Romani-speaking groups and their descendants to understand their Romani pa and to find their Romani pa, and for all of us to find a commonality and to find unity and Yekipe between us. Yeah.
May I
please
come back to the...
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah. So now I would like to ask some of the participants here, especially the students, because we know that some of them do not have the language anymore, but and maybe they don't have the Kris, maybe they lost the Roma occupation. I don't know about the pachiv. I would like to hear from the students what makes you Roma, and how your Romani-Pe is preserved, and how in this, if you go to translate something from Romani, I mean, from any language, let's say Polish, Slovak, Greek, or Ukrainian into Romani, how you are going to transfer this Romani-Pe in your text. So I would like to have this discussion around this diagram and to see this, how it's in the practice. So Sonia.
Yes, for me it's very important about the social identity, you know.
Do you have the language in your family?
Of course, you know, but if you think that I can have everything, but if family doesn't accept me, how I can be Romani with Romani-Pen, you know? Romani-Pen, it means that you have to be in the society, you have to be accepted with society, with your family, with your group, with other, you know, families. So to me, Romani-Pen is to belong to the Roma society, to be with Roma society, to behave, you know, in some way like they accept. And I think that you can be Rom without Romani-Pen, but with all of these things, you know. So
how you could be Rom without Romani-Pe? Explain this to me.
You born as a Rom. You cannot be became a Rom. In my opinion, you cannot became a Rom. You know, you can be a gypsy. You can pretend to be as a gypsy.
If
but
a
Rom,
Gajo child is adopted by Roma family, a Gajo child is adopted by Roma family and grows up in Roma culture, Romani-Pe, Romani chip, and then he will be Roma, although that genetically he will not have the genes, DNA of Roma.
I would like to say that he will be more as a Romano, but he will never be a Rom.
What is the difference between Romano and
Romano? You know that
which means what?
He will practice all these things which Roma practice, but he'll never be a Rom because he's not born in a Roma family. You can become a Romano. There is a lot of, you know, mixed marriage and so on. And even in my family. And it's not that I'm, you know, I have some straight thinking about it. No, but you never become a Rom. Even you are not born in Roma family, but you can become a Romano.
I would like to hear on this the reaction of Janko.
Well, I think it depends, first of all, which Ndani we're talking about.
Yeah.
The Vlachitske Rom who came to North and South America did so very soon after the end of the slavery in Romania. So Căldăraș, Machoaia, Luara, and so on, Șurarea, left with a lot of the culture intact because of the social conditions of being out on the estates, separate from the Romanian population. And although they had so much Romanian influence, especially in the language, they were also able to keep a lot of the culture because of being segregated so sharply. So the Romani Americans are very old-fashioned, which surprises European visitors to North America. They think American Romanis have got to be modern and American, but they're not. When Nicolae Gheorghe came over, he said, "You people sound like my grandmother." So what they believe in North America and South America may not be true here. So I'll just tell you what I'm familiar with, and that is that descent is through the male line. Unlike in the Jewish tradition, where your mother has to be Jewish for you to be Jewish. The society is divided very sharply into Rom and Gaje. It's absolutely clear. Gaje are not spiritually clean people. it's not a genetic condition, it's a social one, because if a Romani boy marries a non-Romani girl and she comes in, she doesn't become a Romani. She never can. But she will be a Gaji Romani. And she will also become clean because she will be taught how to behave, how to cook, how to dress, how to respect. She will be taught Akiv. So this question of identity is as much cultural as genetic, but it depends on who marries whom. And essentially, if you are to be considered Romani, it's not what you think you are yourself, it's what other Romani people think you are also. And when different Romani people meet for the first time and they're checking each other out, they don't say con santu, but say casco san. Whose are you? Who do you belong to? I.e., what family is yours? And you will be checked out. You will be checked out by phone calls to see whether you're legit, to see whether you are wujo. If you are, for some reason, if you've been declared bolime or marime or pecolime, then you wouldn't be allowed in. So you are checked out very carefully as a newcomer, but it's all about being part of the world. It's as you said, it's community. You have to live with other Romani people in the community.
And what about Gaju child adopted by Roma family?
Well, that happens quite a lot. That happens a lot, actually. And if they are brought up, I wasn't gonna say this, but maybe I will. There is a lot of inbreeding in Romani culture because we married first cousins, and you do see the results of that genetically. So to bring in non-Romani blood is a deliberate thing as well, just to guard against too much close marriages and childbirth and so on. Would you agree with that?
Okay, thank you.
I would like to give it to Kako Thomas and then go on to the online feedback. We've got some really interesting conversation coming in there too. Kako Thomas?
To use a good word we had earlier, I think it's wonderfully Puricano to hear you guys talking about identity. I just wonder how you would assess the comment from, I think, 1982 or 1983 of Nicolae George, when he said, I play with my identity. What kind of kelipe?
Well, that's absolutely true. You were told, I was told, don't tell people you're a gypsy. It won't help you in life. And if you're light-skinned, you can get away with it. But it's very difficult, and it's very difficult when our young people want to leave the Romania and they don't fit in to the Gajikani, Lumia, and try to go back, and then it's so hard to go back in because now you've become tainted. But a friend of mine, a Romichal friend of mine, who's a successful businessman, is terrified that people will learn that he's a Romani person. He thinks it will, and he would be right. It will affect his work, his career. You wouldn't work with a lawyer who works out of the trunk of his car, the boot of his car. And that's the attitude. Oh, gypsies, gypsies. So yeah, you hide what you are and pretend to be something else. It's a pity. It's a shame.
May I? In Canada, we say
In Canada, we say, be proud of who you are, be careful who you tell.
I would like to hear more young people about their identity, how they feel about their identity. Okay, Nazik, how do you feel about your identity being Muslim Roma from Bulgaria who grow up in Canada and who doesn't speak Romani at home, but Turkish and yeah.
You must think I feel pretty mixed up, right?
Yeah. What makes you Romani? Why do you tell that you are Romani and not Canadian or not Gaji or not Horachni or not whatever?
You know, I was going to address what you said about the adopted child. Oh.
It works simply.
Now? Okay. I was going to address about the adopted child, about what you said, and it goes in direct connection with what is identity and how do we think about identity. If the Gaje child was adopted by a Romani family, in my opinion, identity is what you live through, the experiences. It's not just the blood, because it's the other way around. If a Roma child is adopted by a Gaje family, that child in experience and in real life, we can argue that they become Gaje, right? They have no awareness of their Romani-ness.
She's right.
And so really and truly, the question is, what makes us really Roma? Is it our genes or is it our culture? Is it the lived experiences? We've had these conversations in Toronto with our board members, with our community. And I don't think we'll ever come to the end of this question, because I think in reality, identity is really personal, I think in many ways. And also it is fluid. I think what you think about yourself as a person first is intertwined with your culture. And I don't think there's a strict way to kind of separate that. So in my opinion, I am Roma because I come from the Roma community from Bulgaria, not only because my parents speak Romanes, but because I lived that life and I'm in contact with these people and I know about it and I feel it, that I have the connection. Even maybe perhaps if, the bloodline, even if I was mixed, even if my mother wasn't Roma by blood and by culture, if I am in contact with them, I am a part of the community. So I think it's fluid. I don't know. I don't know about.
Sorry, guys. Janusz and Dalibor. Before, let me just say, Nidi
that Roma is only by blood. I think if we were to say that to be Roma only by your genes and by your blood, we would be constricting it.
But okay, I didn't understand still, what exactly makes you Roma in Canada? So you don't have intense contacts with your community, right?
I do.
Okay.
I mean, yes, of course I do. I have never not had any contact with them. I go to Bulgaria every year. And I speak to them. I speak to my family all the time. What makes me Romani? I should ask that of my daughter who was born here. I don't know. You see, her identity is in question, right? If I don't give it down to her, then she's gonna lose out not to be a part of the community. But I feel Romani. I can't say that I'm anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, do you want to read some of the emails, or how
I would just like to mention that Nidhi Trahan, our Punjabi-speaking sister, right, is making some very valuable contribution on the Zoom chat box. So she's saying, for example, that the Indian word pratishta means dignity, prestige. That may be a cognate of partiv, rather than panchayat, which is a gathering of 5 village elders, which we heard before. And now, if it's okay, can we give it to Janusz and Dalibor after him, please?
And after that, Daniel.
Yeah. That was not Nidhi, that was Punita who wrote that.
Okay, I would like to say about Romani-Pay. The first one, that's about adopt children. I think if it was non-Romani child and it adopted by Romani family, it's of course Romani boy, because he has Romani language, Romani pativ, maybe he have Romani buti and Chris or something like this. So of course he's Roma because he have Romani pativ. And if some baby adopted by Gajano family, how can he be Rom if he does not have Romani pativ and does not have Romani language? It's impossible. You can say this is Roma child who in Gajano family, but you cannot say it's Roma boy.
Okay.
And the other thing about pativ, it's very simple, really. It's Old Armenian word. In Old Armenian language, pativ means the same thing. Like
what
in Romani.
makes you Roma? Why do you say that you're Roma?
First of all, my parents are Roma. So, and the one very important reason, Roma community need to accept you like Roma. If Roma community accept you like Roma, it means that you're Roma. And if Roma community, they do not accept you like Roma, it's some another question, because I'm, my parents are Roma, I live in Roma community, and I have everything for this diagram of Juicy.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, I've just been told that we're going to have to close in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And we've shifted now from the actual workshop to identity as per the suggestion of Christo.
Yeah, because it's important to hear the ideas
however,
of.
if you don't mind, I would
Jacob.
love to give you guys a couple of more things on translation and interpretation as well. I would need 5 minutes for that, and I would love to use the remaining 5 minutes for getting further questions. If Dalibor doesn't want it, who else wanted to speak? Daniel wanted to speak.
Yeah, and then.
Right? Go ahead. Just on the mic, please.
Well, I don't know if actually it makes sense to start this speech because I would talk for too long. But I really agree with what Nazik told. Like, I mean, she was talking about how identity is flowing, and that it is a thing that it changes, and it gives out certain parts. Some like good core stays, right? But it's something that is like it flows in and out in a way. And I think it also makes sense to think about identity as a person and a personality as in relation with the environment. Why do I think about that in that way? Is because I was raised and born in a Romani family, but then I moved out on my own volition to Bratislava, to an international high school where I spent 4 years with Parvale Gadže, learning, about business and leadership and entrepreneurship and whatever. Yes, and I've learned in English, and I did AP, English, whatever, and the culture and so on. And the people have really grown close to me, and they have accepted me as Roma, and I have accepted them as my close circle. But at the same time, I was still keeping in touch with my Roma community, with my family, but also helping out through NGOs and keeping up with the Roma leaders. And so I always have been sort of immersed in both worlds simultaneously, while I have been showing the Gadže, the Romani Yellow, whenever somebody was hungry at the dormitory, I was cooking for them, whether it was 2 a.m. or it was 5 p.m. I was helping out people, and but at the same time, I was keeping in touch with the family, helping out in the family. Always was there to support my mother. But I have, and also as an LGBT person, that's another layer to the whole of this sphere and a cascade. I have found myself in a position where I am everywhere but nowhere at the same time. And that is a difficult position to be in, but I still believe that I am Roma, even though when I came back home from that, fancy high school that taught me a lot of things, and I've become the intelligent Roma who nobody understands. They still accepted me. I still accepted them, even though we had those arguments about who are you or who you've become. You know, this is what they've taught you in the school. At the same time, like when I was explaining the Roma, you know, my cultural background to the Gadje, so they could understand why I do the things a certain way, how I do them. I was met with this sort of eyes like, why are you talking in this way? Like, why are you doing this way? But we still sort of managed to build bridges, and I still have good relationships. I'm not going to talk about the LGBT sphere right now because it's a completely different topic. So, yeah.
Yeah, and what makes you Roma then?
Thank you,
Daniel, what makes you Roma?
What makes me Roma? My experiences, my family, my ties to the community. I mean, just the way I was brought up, and that I bring I bring that with myself where I go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Risto, as well as Daniel and everyone. Yeah, Nidia, I made a mistake. So it was Punita who said that and not you. About the meaning of pratishta, if I pronounce it right, meaning prestige in Sanskrit, and it's not Persian. Now, I just wanted to give you this diagram. As you see, this is great food for thought. I thought that Nazik and Janusz were describing details of Pachiv, right? So you guys have Pachiv, right? Being part of the community and being outcast, that's the community that I live in to date, right? I'm risking being outcast with any sentence, with any action I take. So I'm always very careful about what I do. But that means on my diagram, if you can go back to my slide for a second, we have, in my community, we have the language, yeah? I only spoke Romani language up to the age of 6. We have Greece to date, yeah? We have to be very careful of what we do because you can get outcast. We have traditional occupations. We are horse dealers, right? And we have Pachiv as well, all the rules of Pachiv. However, again, as I'm telling you, these 4 building blocks should help others find their own Romani path and find their way back to the Romani people, if they want to find their way back to Romani people. That was my only reason to come up with this diagram, to help people to simplify it, really. It's not as it is on the diagram, but it may help some other people to understand.
I think
now,
if
I've
you
got
want
a poem
to
here
share
as well.
you need to share your screen if you want to show
Am
the
I not
diagram.
sharing the screen? I apologize. I just try and do that very quickly. More, share screen, share, there we go. So I wanted to show as well to you guys, who is a Roma person, who has Romani Pa, right? I wrote a poem about it. It got very successful on Facebook, actually. It was shared across lots of groups, right? And I'm recommending this to you to read it in your free time. This is Romani Pa in my conservative group. I call my group a very conservative group. We still have arranged marriages, right? And you have to be very careful about what you say and what you do, right? But also many other aspects, right? As per the conservative perception, which again, you're welcome to read through in your free time. We have no time for that left. However, a couple of more things and tips for you. So what will you do if a male interpreter is recruited for an emergency female surgery? Both male and female, and the male and the female come from the same community, both have Romani Pa, both are married and have children. And according to Pachiv, they are not supposed to talk to each other, right? A man and a woman, let alone discussing a theme with sexual reference, right? It happened to me before, right? I got recruited to an emergency female surgery, and they recruited me because of Jula. That's when I changed to Jews, right? And because they were thinking I was a female. And I showed up. How would you react in that situation? You don't have to reply now, right? But think about that, right? Should you accept or decline the job? Another situation. Roma family van, real story again. Family van gets vandalized overnight. Family calls police, but they cannot provide an interpreter overnight. No one in family speaks English, and they called me to help out, right? Neighbor, the eyewitness, when I showed up and I was translating for the police for an hour, they alleged that the interpreter was the offender, right? And my police friends, they were my friends, they knew me, they knew who I was, they knew my family. They said, because the man is making this allegation, we have to arrest you Jews. There's no other way, right? We know that it wasn't you, but because that man is saying that, we're going to have to arrest you now. And we're not going to take you into custody, but tomorrow you'll have to speak to the man after he becomes sober that you shouldn't be arrested. So you, as an interpreter, you can get into such a horrible situation, right? So then I learned my lesson. When Romani speakers call me overnight, I shouldn't really go there and translate unless the police recruits me or another institution. Or what will you do? There is a Roma mother, again, real story. She had all of her 5 children taken into care. She gave birth to a 6th child, right? This is a story in the Stacey Dooley film, which I showed you the trailer of before. And then I got recruited by Council Social Services to check the home environment, whether the baby, the 6th child, can stay at home or will have to go into care. And the mom was lying about the fact that she pays her electricity bill and that she set up the home environment and that she has a job and everything. And she was lying about everything. And I was part of the community and I knew that she was lying about everything. How do you behave in that situation? What is it you're going to do? It's a huge conflict. You can feel the risk on your shoulders as well, right? The weight of the burden. So these are very, as a Romani interpreter, you're getting into situations that other interpreters normally don't get, right? And what will you do? How will you react in that situation? This is another translation. Debbie sent one of the artists to me to translate her website and an artistic text. It's an interesting one, I thought, because, and I did it for her, because she wanted to set up an exhibition about working with metal for Calderash Roma in Scotland, right? And her specific request was to do this in Calderash dialect. I thought, that's straightforward, yeah? I'm half Calderash, I can do that. I grew up with Calderash dialect. However, the text is this. Furnace considers the materiality of the smelting process which transformed iron ore into pig iron to make various commodities, right? Woo, what a sentence to translate, right? And I came up with this translation. A furnace rodelo sumboro le biliarimasco sarparu venaso sastruno mineralo and the ivando sastrin kaite keren averane producturia, right? I showed this translation to several Caldera speakers in my community, and they were like, yeah, we get that, man, right? So this is exactly what I'm just trying to underline what Hadin has been telling us over the last week. It's extremely important to double check, and Janusz also gave us that in his example, where he called several friends in the community to read it back to them and find out whether your translation is good enough. This is another one which you can consult in your free time. I got some snippets here, but I've got the full text on the slide there. I'm very much into IT. I've been working in the IT sector for 2 decades, and I got a request to translate for peoplesdeclaration.net. It's an amazing initiative, very highly recommended. And there's another sentence there where just destructive business model, just this one phrase, right? Destructive business model. Yeah, how do you put that into Romani, right? My version is Muyal Dimasco business model, right? Muyal delpe or business model. All right. So, there are ways you can come up from Romani and people will understand you as well because they use the word. And then these are further situations. Maybe just one I would pick from, you are hired to translate, to interpret for a United Nations conference during the pandemic, and you have to do it from home, right? What are the things that you need to pay attention to, right? My colleague, Seido was my colleague at one of these conferences, and he wouldn't have headphones. He would have kids around, the dog barking. So he was having lots of challenges with understanding what the speaker was saying. And also the listeners were having a hard time understanding what he was saying because he didn't have the right tactical environment around him. Or when you got a child in hospital, a real story again, yeah? Cannot have visitors, but his family gets evicted in the meantime with another 6 children in the family, right? And the child needs translation support. How do you get that across to them? And the institutions come to you and they say, oh, we don't know what to do. As an interpreter, you can make suggestions as well to the institutions, and I did, and they accepted it. So the way we did it was, I was on Teams with the institution, and I was on Messenger with the family, yeah, with the boy in the hospital. And that way we could do the 3-way conversation and interpretation. Or we heard about bad news, yeah, when there's a car accident and somebody dies, and you are recruited at 3 a.m. overnight. Yeah, how do you communicate that to a Romani person? Right? It's very, very hard. Or when children are being removed from a family, right? Do you get into that situation as an interpreter? Will you go and do that, right? Or when somebody's getting arrested, right? These are really harsh scenarios that as a Romani interpreter or any kind of interpreter, you can easily bump into. And I've got more on the slides, which you're very welcome to consult in your free times, guys. I'm glad that Christo interjected the identity conversation into this. And thank you very much to Kakayanko as well. I think we had an extremely lively discussion. And I think we are all smarter now a little bit, everyone, including myself, after the conversations we had. And thank you very much to the organizers, to Fourth Space as well, and to the online contributors too, especially Nidhi, our lovely sister. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have here a text of a song, Roma song. I would like to give you the text that for tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, you can translate it. You can find the text in the YouTube if you type the first line, and it will be. You can hear the song from the YouTube.